which is you can begin paying off debt. There's two ways of thinking about paying off debt. There's the logical way and the psychological way. I would recommend the psychological way. So let's say that you've got three different cards that you owe. You've got one that's 20%, one that's 15%, one that's 10%. Okay. Logic would state that you should go after the 20% one. Psychology would state that you should go after the one that you can pay off fastest. So my recommendation, despite the fact that the math would say, oh, I should pay off the bigger, the one that cost me the most first, you're gonna pay them all off eventually, and you've been dealing with all three of them for like years now. So chill. Maybe just follow the process, which is get a win faster. That's the whole point. And so pay them off in reverse order of speed of paying them off. So it's like, boom, I knocked one out. Boom, I knocked one out. It's like you want to have those little like jackpots, but organize them so you have more of them sooner in your process. Now, if the one that you have the highest interest on is also the fastest for you to pay off, then definitely that's a double win. Like you can have like 3 quick wins and you're just waiting like 9 months to do that because you have to pay this big debt off. It's like, just get the win. And to be clear, when I'm talking about paying off debt, I'm talking primarily on consumer debt and credit cards and things like that. The debt that we're not going to deal with yet is going to be like house debt, like your mortgage debt. If you have a car, I would recommend getting rid of that and trading it down. The easiest way to pay off your car is pay off a cheaper car and trade in the one that you have. You're living beyond your means. It's just that you thought your means were higher than they are. But that's okay. That's why you're watching this. I want to give you one mental image that should hopefully drag through why this is so important. So you gotta save about $10 a day for you to get $1 million in 40 years. So the math is $250 a month that you would put away. If it compounds at 9%, then you can get $1 million in 40 years. That feels so easy to do. The only thing easier is not doing it. And if you were to just put $500 a month away, at $500 a month, you'd be at 2.1 million in 40 years. Now, to be clear, most people can live on about 4-ish%, and that's with never touching the principal. At some point, you can start unwinding it and spending the money, right? But at 4%, which is a very safe amount that you can spend off that, you can live on 80 grand a year. This is the gamification that I would want you to think about, which is that for every $250 that you save every month, it's $1 million in 40 years. Just basically just use that as your math. And you're like, wait, so if I save 1,000, you're like, right, that's 4 million. You're like, and if I save 2,000, you're like, that's 8 million, right? And so the thing is that's where you're gonna get into this game. We're gonna be like, Fiji water, you're like, screw Fiji water, right? You're like, I'll use the spigot in the back. Now, if you're watching this, you're like, well, then didn't you spend all this money on this? Yeah, there's levels, right? But we got to get from level 1 first, which is we got to spend less than we make. We got to save what we're keeping. Okay, step 3 is you're actually going to kind of like double down on step 1, which is this: is that you expand your emergency savings. $1,000 to $5,000 is not real emergency savings. That's like just to prove to yourself that you've learned how to save money. The real emergency savings is really having like 3 to 6 months of living expenses saved up. So you can just like leave it in an interest bearing account, which there's plenty of places that will give you 5 or 6%, at least today, I'm making in this video, on the money you put in there. The magic of this is that when you put that cash there, your level of anxiety around everything else in life will go down. And this will then snowball in being able to actually take your eyes from paycheck to paycheck and look up. Then this is where saving money makes you money, is that it allows you to see the opportunities around you because you actually can go on the offense. Now, to be clear, we're not going to invest this money. This money is just your brick of safety that you always have because you don't know what's going to happen next. So that seems the way to step 4, which is eliminate risky spending. So if you have a car lease, turn it in, all right, and then buy a $5,000 clunker. All right, so 5 grand, 10 grand in cash. Again, we're at step 4 now. All right, so you've already saved some money. You've learned how to save. You've paid off some debt. Now trade that thing in. My dad owned every car we had in cash, and all we had bought used. I think my first few cars all had over 100,000 miles. That was just how I thought everyone bought cars. So negotiate, look for a car that's 100,000 years old. Look at Carfax. Try to have something that has low insurance and low repairs. And a lot of that stuff you can look at average cost of repair by different vehicles. Next thing is if you have multiple cars, downgrade to one. I mean, Layla and I have lived with one car for years.